Good morning and welcome to the Cornish countryside. We're staying here in Cornwall for a week, but in that week what I would like to do is still talk about some software development discussions. Today I want to talk about Flipper the burger maker. This is a robot that is in, I think it's in some places, some fast food joints in America. Now this burger maker is burger flipper is going to flip the burgers, and I believe it checks the temperature of the burgers. Obviously you need to have a human person to produce or build up the burger, so put the burger in the baps and so forth. But this is quite an interesting thing for me because this is moving sort of away from a human working position into a robot position. A robot is therefore replacing what a human would do. Personally, I think I would prefer to have a robot flipping burgers, checking for meat, that kind of thing, because they have to run against rules and procedures that have been defined by humans, right? So I would prefer to have my burgers at a certain temperature defined by the rules that have been laid out by the programmers. And also it means that the burger is going to be pretty much the same each time, so you know what you're getting, because the robot, the program, will be running against these rules that have been defined and laid out as safety standards almost, that follow and conform to these kind of things. And that, for me, is quite a good thing, because I would like to go to these things knowing that the burger is properly cooked, knowing that the burger is properly produced and made and built correctly. It fits a hygienic standard that has been laid out by the developer, by the industry. And why does this make me feel so comfortable? Well, I think it's because it eliminates the human error factor in actually producing a meal. But at the same time, having a robot replace someone's piece of work is actually a little bit freaky. I mean, that's someone's job, right? Someone is going to be losing a job for this robot, and this robot can probably end up doing a better job at flipping burgers than the human counterpart. But the thing is, I don't want to take away the gourmet food, all right? That is the stuff, the passionate stuff that chefs produce. So I'm not sure if I would like to see robots go into that kind of sort of industry, but that's a completely different thing. But I think this has large implications, social implications, economic implications, and other implications, because a robot is literally replacing what a human does. My gut feeling in this instance is it's perfectly fine. However, I'm not sure whether or not we are, as a human society, ready or have asked enough questions about this kind of thing. Of course, there has been an awful lot of industries that have been replaced by robots, by computers, and so forth, and also a lot of skills as well that have been either replaced or just sort of completely non-existent now. So, for example, I'm talking about bookmakers. Yes, there are some niche bookmakers out there, and there was a time where, a couple of generations ago, a lot of people were bookmakers. They would be able to produce and build books and make books and mend books as well. Same with shoes, right? So there were shoemakers and all of that stuff. You don't see a lot of that anymore, or if you do, it's kind of niche and it's kind of retro, and that's kind of the target market that they're focusing on now, because it's not the mainstream. So maybe burger flipping is just another one of those skills that will be soon forgotten, or it will be only in gourmet burger kitchens where it's actually produced by a chef. A lot of people argue, well, what would the person do after that? What is the person going to do for work if that's all they knew? If all they knew was how to create a book, or if all they knew was how to use a typewriter, or how to create some shoes, and that's now being replaced by robots and other bits and pieces, what do they do instead? And personally, I'm of the opinion that these kind of industries that we might be losing, they actually generate industries. You're going to need to have people who maintain and monitor and clean these robots. We're talking about robots that produce food, so they in themselves are going to have to conform to standards such as cleanliness and hygiene and so forth. So they would be serviced. It's a bit like when we had printers and faxes, and you would have printer services and you would have fax services, and they would come in and they would service the fax machine or the printers and make sure everything is working smoothly as it should. So I do think that Flipper the Burger Maker is probably one of the first sort of stepping stones, the publicly seen stepping stones, if you will, into this robot revolution. I would be very interested to taste what one of these burgers tastes like, and see, you know, what it's like. I'm pretty sure that once people get used to this kind of thing, it will just suddenly become the norm. And of course, we're seeing all of these robots in smaller, different parts of the different industries. So, for example, we're seeing AI in things like cars. We're having cars having more control over how we drive and so forth. They are slowly becoming autonomous, in my opinion. Farming is another sector that has had an awful lot of change in their industry. A lot of things are done robotically rather than manually now, and that's helped the farmers out, which is great. Incidentally, quite recently there was a competition for Raspberry Pi owners called Pi Wars, and basically it was a load of Raspberry Pi powered robots all battling it out in a competition. That's fantastic. I would have loved to have gone, and I would love to hear from anyone who attended and competed in Pi Wars. Now, of course, as programmers, we have lots of responsibilities and requirements now, because not only are we just building websites or applications or writing scripts that do certain things, we're now building or programming and engineering these robots that do or should conform to safety requirements for all kinds of different industries. So as programmers, we certainly will need to start thinking a little bit more outside of the box. We're going to have all sorts of other regulations to deal with, safety regulations, health and safety regulations, that kind of thing. And we are building software for robots that will eventually replace someone's job. So as programmers, not only are we dealing with applications and scripts and everything we normally do right now, but we're also going to be developing systems and applications that make robots think, which actually deal with how a robot behaves. And we're going to be thinking well outside of the box. We need to, in order to conform to health and safety, in order to conform to how a robot should behave in that sort of environment. And it's not just the environments that we're used to right now that we need to be aware of, but also the environments that these robots are going to be within. So interesting times ahead. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Today we're going to go off to Porthcurno. I'm going to leave you now with some footage that I took from Porthcurno, from the beach, and from the coastal walk. Thanks for watching, happy coding, see you again next time. Cheers, bye.